Last year at the Disney Marathon, I got swept at mile 22, meaning I got put on a bus and taken to the end. Here are 10 things I wish I would have known before running that would have helped me complete it. Number one, in Florida, the temperatures in January can vary. It can be hot or cold, so be prepared for either one. Be sure and check the weather beforehand. Either way, if it's hot or cold, it gets to that temperature very early in the morning. So these races start at 5 a.m., but by 9 a.m., you're starting to get really close to that high temperature for the day. So just be prepared for that because it'll reach that temperature very fast. The second thing is that if you stay off site and drive to the location, you're gonna walk 1 to 2 miles just to the start line. It varies from year to year, but it is still at least 1 to 2 miles of walking normally. That's been my experience with all the runs at Disney, but especially with the full marathon. And so when you think about that, you're adding a mile or two to your run, assuming you don't run around a lot of people on the course. Make sure that you can handle that 1 to 2 mile walk before you even get ready for your 26-mile run or even half marathon. It's all the same. The starting corrals tend to be in the same location for all the races. The third thing is make sure you wear sunscreen. I don't tend to wear sunscreen above my eyes because I don't want it right in there. But again, as I said, the temperature gets high, the sun comes up early, and the sun is stronger in Florida. So when you start running, you don't want to get sunburned along the way. And once you start sweating, it's near impossible to put sunscreen on. So make sure to just put some on just in case, because irrelevant of how fast you are running a marathon, you're going to be in the sun for a while and it burns you very quickly, even in January. The fourth thing, buy appropriate socks. Last year when I got swept, I had blisters all over my feet and it was abnormally warm for that time of year. But I wasn't prepared, so I didn't have the proper socks on. So make sure that you buy proper socks. The ones I'm trying out this year, there's a link in my description, but make sure you have proper equipment, proper socks, because you're going to sweat. Even if it's colder than normal, it's still going to be warm throughout the run. So make sure that you have those proper socks. This is the one thing that made the run really hard for me because I ended up with blisters all over my feet and I could barely walk. If I could have kept walking and kept up the 16-mile pace, I would have finished, but I just couldn't do it. The next thing is for all of these races, marathons, half marathons, you have to average a 16-minute mile pace. That is from the last crowd because that's where the balloon ladies are standing. Balloon ladies only represent the end. There are people on bikes behind them that try to see if they feel like you can finish. They try to let you finish if at all possible, but you have to keep that 16-minute pace in the last corral. If not, there's buses throughout the entire race that they'll put you on and they drive you to the end. But keep that in mind. If you're in a corral further up and you start struggling towards the end, you do have some space between you and the balloon ladies. Now, I will really say, and I really want to emphasize this, don't lie about your time that you're planning on doing it because it makes it harder for other runners. If you plan on walking the whole thing and doing a 16-minute mile pace, say that so that you are impacting the other people who are maybe doing a 10-mile or 12-mile pace. Please. It will really help everybody. It'll help you. It'll help improve the overall race experience. The number six thing, and everybody does this every time. When they start to do the races, everyone stands up like they're going to start running. It could be almost 30 minutes by the time your corral starts, depending on where you are. They space them out every couple minutes and they've actually break the corrals into subgroups. The race may start at 5 a.m. or 5:30, but you may not actually even start running until 6 o'clock. So prepare for that. Me, every year, I struggle because everybody starts standing up and you don't want to get stepped on. But when you stand there and not moving for half an hour, that wears on your legs a little bit. So just be prepared for that. That if you're in a further back corral, you may be there 15, 20, 30 minutes standing, waiting to start. So the number seven thing is, so last year when I got swept at the marathon, I was doing the Goofy Challenge, which is ran the half marathon followed by the full marathon the next day. This year I'm doing Dopey. I wasn't prepared for it. You have to get up at 2 a.m. for these races, which doesn't seem crazy until you do it multiple days. So if when you're doing these challenges, prepare that. Also kind of make sure you have time for naps because you're going to need them. Because if you're getting up at 2 a.m., the race doesn't start almost 3 hours later, then you're running 6 hours, depending on how long your run is, and then you're doing it again the next day, you're going to need some sort of nap throughout that process or some sort of rest because it wears on you. Bonus tip here, just something I personally do, is after these races, when I'm doing multiple in a row, when I get home, I soak in Epsom salt bath, and it really helps with the swelling and the muscle soreness. The number 8 thing is something that I learned by getting swept, and I heard multiple things because I think they maybe changed it over the years. You do get the medal for the race you're doing if you get swept. If you're doing any of the challenges though, you don't get the medal unless you complete the race. So they'll bust you to the end, they'll hand you a medal, and they're actually very sympathetic. They know you're probably upset that you got swept, but they do give you the medal. You just don't get the challenger medals. The number 9 thing is something that is at every Disney race, but it is something that I wish I knew, and I've adjusted what I do during races because of this. So there are narrow spots. There's always gonna be narrow spots when you're running at these Disney races. There's sidewalk, there's all these different pathways, there's behind the scenes, there's always narrow spots. And you always have a large volume of people walking, which make it very hard to run. So what I ended up actually doing was I just ended up preparing that time to be walking for me because it is really hard to run around people, but I found that I was running multiple miles extra just trying to run around people. So what I tend to do is use that time to just kind of walk as fast as I can in the crowd. Then I'll start running and try to make up some time later. It doesn't work for everyone. The reason I do it is if I'm running around people and running 2 extra miles, then I'm not really speeding up my time at all. I'm not really saving much. The number 10 thing is that there are hills in Florida of sorts on these races. So everyone thinks Florida's flat, which it relatively is. But when you're running these races, you're gonna run up some overpasses which are at slight inclines, those are almost like steep hills because of how you end up running up them. It just ends up being almost like running up a hill. Don't train thinking you're never going to run on hills or anything like that, because the elevation does change throughout the race very slightly, but also you have these overpasses that you run up when you're running on the highways. Bonus tip, socks was one of the big issues why I got swept, but the other big issue was the training. So when you do the training program for Dopey, for marathon, for half marathon, for the Disney World, it's in January. So a lot of your long runs tend to be around the holidays, which become very hard to do when you're trying to run 4, 6 hours, 3 hours, whatever you're trying to do the training. The longest run I did was 18 miles prior to this, and I probably could have finished the full marathon if it wouldn't have been abnormally warm and I would have known these other things. But if I would have done the training, I would have known early on my socks weren't appropriate for 26 miles. I would have known some of these things that I should have done. So stick to the training. I use the Galloway plan because I do run walk. It seems to work very well, and I enjoy doing it. If you found this helpful, make sure to give this a thumbs up. If you want to see how my Dopey training is going this year, make sure and click this video right here.